Hello YouTubers. I decided to do this video because I was rather unhappy with the videos I've seen online regarding the differences between the three popular light bulb technologies, which are incandescent, fluorescent, and LED. Incandescent is the oldest technology. It's the one that we've had for about 100 years now. And what you have in front of you is a halogen bulb, but it is still an incandescent. Incandescent bulbs have a filament inside. And the way they work, same way they've worked for the past 100 years, the electricity goes through them, the filament gets bright hot, it emits light, and it also emits heat. Now, the halogen technology, which is what this is, and this is basically like a light bulb within a light bulb. But the ampule that's inside has a filament with halogen gas, which makes it brighter than a standard incandescent, but it's still a filament that heats up, creates heat, and creates light. And I'm sorry about the camera focusing problem there. Now, the problem with this technology is it's very inefficient. In order for an incandescent bulb to make light, it has to make heat. And when you start making heat, that means your air conditioner has to work harder to make up for the heat that you're creating. So let's say in a typical house, you might have a couple of bulbs per room. Not a huge deal. But let's say in an office setting or a theater, commercial building, where you can have hundreds of bulbs lit in one room, that heat starts to add up. And the hotter it is, the more the air conditioner has to work. So the incandescent bulbs, they get you on both sides. They get you on being wasteful at producing light, and they produce heat, which makes your air conditioner have to work harder. So you have to pay more to keep the room cool. Now, this technology is being phased out. It does have a couple of benefits. One is it's very resilient. It's nothing more than a filament. So it can somewhat tolerate power surges, any kind of ESD, like a nearby lightning strike, something like that it could tolerate. And the other thing it's very tolerant of is dimmers. It doesn't care if it's dimmed or not. It'll work just fine. Doesn't care what temperature it is. It could be freezing cold, or you could be out in the Sahara. It doesn't care. It'll still light up. So that's incandescent. And incandescent bulbs are rated in watts, which is the power that they consume. They're also rated in lumens, and they're rated in CRI, which is color rendition index. Okay, watts is a measurement of the power consumed. Lumens is the amount of light that the light bulb puts out. And they might give that number to you as lumens per watt, or they might just give you a straight up number of lumens for the bulb. And then you have CRI. CRI is color rendition index, which means if I'm lighting up something with this light bulb, how accurate is that color going to be when compared to being outdoors in natural daylight? And that can matter. And I'll show you some bulbs later that have a pretty lousy color rendition index. The reason that can matter is, let's say you have a room with some really neat colors in it, and you put in a bulb that has a lousy color rendition index. Some of the colors are going to look flat and dull. Things are going to look washed out. It ain't going to look right. And that's a function of color rendition index. So let me set this guy aside, and I'm also going to turn on the light here. I had turned it off because it was interfering a bit with the reflectivity of the bulb. Now let's move on to CFL. CFL stands for compact fluorescent lamp. And on this particular one, it shows right there, this is a 10 watt, 120 volt, 600 lumen bulb. It also tells you right where it says HG, it tells you that this bulb contains mercury. You can't just throw it in the garbage. Right next to the HG, it says 2700K. That refers to the color temperature of the bulb. Color temperature is given to consumers in two forms. One is you go to the store and you'll buy a bulb that says warm white. You might see when it says cool white or says daylight. Warm white is kind of a yellowish light like what you would get out of an old school light bulb, an old incandescent. Cool white is a brighter white, a little more sterile. And then you have what's called daylight. The daylight bulbs have some blue light in them, and they make things look really sterile and washed out. They're kind of lousy for lighting up rooms. They're good for lighting up work areas. And the way the scale rides, it's approximately 25 or 2700K all the way up to about 6500K. The low end of the scale is your warm white. It's the bulbs that are more towards the old school incandescent kind of yellowish light color. The higher end of the scale, the 6000, 6500K, that's daylight. That's very sterile, has some blue in it. It's not very appealing, but it's good task lighting. Now, where that comes from, this is something that wasn't explained in other videos. The K stands for Kelvin. It's a measurement of temperature. So, if you were to take an object and heat it to 2700 Kelvin, that object would glow in the same color of light that this bulb produces. That's where they get that from. Okay? So, warm white, yellowish light. Cool white is, think of it like snow-covered land. You know, you got a lot of snow, a lot of white everywhere. Think of it like that. And then you have daylight. Daylight is super bright, high noon in the middle of a snow-covered field. Lots of bright white light with some faint blue component to it. Warm white is good for making a room feel cozy. Where as you go up higher in the scale, cool white and daylight are better for task lighting. So this is a CFL, and 600 lumens is about fair for something you would use in a lamp next to a door, a table lamp, something like that. It's fine. Now over here where it says HG, this tells me it has mercury. I can't throw this bulb in the garbage when it's dead. You're not supposed to throw it in the garbage. That's a bad thing to do. You're supposed to take it in for recycling. Here's another CFL HG. So it's got mercury. And it is a 2700. And it says lumens 550. 9 watts. So 9 watts, I get 550 lumens. 10 watts, I get 600 lumens. There's no real correlation between wattage and lumens. It varies from manufacturer to manufacturer, and as the technology gets better, we're squeezing more lumens, which is more light per watt out of these light bulbs. Downsides to CFLs. When you use them in a cold environment, when you first turn them on, they light up dim, and then they gradually get brighter as they heat up. That is normal for a CFL. Some are better about it than others, but they all have some aspect of that. A lot of CFLs have mercury, which I just showed you. They'll be stamped, they'll tell you. It's got mercury on it somewhere. That's what the HG means. So you got to be careful when you dispose of them. And not all CFLs can be dimmed. Some will work with dimmers, some will not. And the ones that do work with dimmers do a pretty lousy job of it. So these are not really a good choice for dimming. You can get CFLs in any color temperature you want, and you can get them in various sizes. Now what they want to bring to your attention is this is a 10 watt bulb, this is a 9 watt bulb. However, what I showed you earlier, that's a 60 watt. So how do they correlate? Well, when they sell you these bulbs, these energy efficient bulbs, they tell you, oh, comparable to a 40 watt, a 50 watt, a 60 watt, so forth. What they're doing is they're telling you, well, an incandescent 60 watt bulb puts out, let's say a random figure, 700 lumens. Well, this bulb right here does the same thing and only consumes 10 watts. That's what they might be telling you. Okay, so ultimately the number you really should be looking at is lumens. How many lumens does the bulb put out compared to the wattage? You want the most lumens for the less watts if you're going for energy efficiency. Now, I'll clue you in on something though. Lumens per watt is highly affected by color temperature. If I want that nice, inviting, kind of yellowish, warm light, I'm going to trade some efficiency to get that. The most efficient light bulbs tend to be in the cool white and daylight range, not warm white. Now let me set these aside. Those were CFLs. Here's a different type of CFL. Almost looks like an LED. That ring you see is from my lamp. Now notice it says 500 lumens, 120 volts AC, 11 watts. So I'm only getting 500 lumens for 11 watts. This thing's not very efficient. I know it's a CFL because look, Hg, mercury. So what's in here is one of these. One of these squirrely bulbs is what's inside that glass. It's just in this nice glass for some decoration feature, maybe to use in a bathroom or something. That's probably why it has the lower than average lumen per watt. But this is still a CFL. You still got to treat it as such. It doesn't like being used with a dimmer. And when you turn it on and it's cold, it's probably going to turn on dim and warm up and get brighter. Now, let's get rid of these. And let's move on to LED. That's a cool little LED bulb, ain't it? This is called an LED filament bulb. And I actually have something a little more architectural. Let me kill the light so you get a different look of it. Hopefully the camera will focus. There it goes. No, the camera doesn't like it. Alright, back on with the light. So, this has filaments, but the filaments are actually made up of strings of tiny little LEDs. So, you have a light bulb that you could use in an architectural setting. You could use it in a restaurant. You could use it in an old light fixture. That will look right, but it's still highly energy efficient because it's an LED bulb. That's what those yellow strings are. They are strings of LEDs. These can be found in the different shades: warm white, cool white, daylight. And when you see these in the store, you'll actually see that the color of the filament varies according to the color temperature of the bulb. These are a little more expensive, but they come with the benefits of LEDs. The primary benefit of the LED is no heat, and it does have a long lifespan. So you still get your light, but you're not generating all that heat and wasting all that electricity like you were doing with an incandescent. So this particular big bulb right here, let's see if I could find a rating on it somewhere. I want to say these are 1 watt a piece, so 2, 4, 6. This big bulb is an 8 watt bulb, from what I remember when I ordered these. And this little guy right here is marked. This one is 3000 Kelvin, 4.5 watts. And there are 4 filaments in there, so roughly 1 watt per filament. And this thing is, I believe, the equivalent of about a 25 watt bulb. Usually LEDs draw anywhere from a fourth to about a fifth of what their incandescent counterparts did. And they don't generate all the heat that your air conditioner has to fight with. So this is just one type. One of the cool things about LEDs, there's a whole bunch of different styles. You're no longer stuck with just one type of light bulb. Look at this thing. This is another type of LED bulb where you have the chips on a board. They call this a cob LED. But what's cool about this is the light is all going to point in one direction. So let's say I'm using this in a floodlight, or I have an overhead lighting fixture in a room. I don't need to light up the fixture. That would be stupid. I want my light going away from the bulb, and this does it perfectly. Now this particular one is a 12 volt one. That's another cool thing about LEDs. You can get them in a bunch of different voltages. So this is ideal for like a camper. But they do make this very same bulb in 110 volts, which I have some of them, and they pull about 3 watts. Here's a different style of chip on board type of bulb. There it is. This gives you more of a 360 degree type of light, but it's still an LED bulb. Here's yet another style. This has a reflector. So like when you have track lighting and you need to concentrate light in one area, you could use this. And this is all to dissipate the heat that's produced by the electronics. Now, LEDs don't necessarily produce zero heat. In any electronic process, there's always a little bit of heat because there's some work or conversion being done, but they produce significantly less heat than an incandescent. An incandescent projector bulb like this would get hot enough in normal operation to burn your hand. This won't. Here's yet another different style. This is a sealed spotlight type bulb for outdoor use. 8 watts, 120 volts AC, 450 lumens, not very efficient. So it's kind of on the efficiency department. It's still better than an incandescent, but you could do better than this. Still, at the end of the day though, the price difference between running a 5 watt bulb and running a 6 watt bulb on your electric bill is going to be pennies a year, believe it or not. So this is a small spotlight type bulb, and this one is built for outdoor use. There you have big spotlight bulb, also LED. Now they do sell these in CFL. So what you want to do is you want to look down here at the base and read the base and see what it tells you. Because remember, if it's a CFL, it's going to say something about mercury. So this one says LED lamp, 650 lumens at 9 watts. Not bad, pretty efficient. And it's 2700K. So this doesn't produce that nasty sterile white light. It actually has a nice warm light to it, and it's fairly efficient. Not bad. I want to show you one more thing about bulbs. They passed a law that now requires all lighting that you, at least the stuff you buy here in the USA. If you bought it on eBay or Amazon and it's coming straight from China, good luck, it's not going to have this. And I wish it had it. That one's got it in Spanish for some reason. Does this one have it in English? I have 2 of these bulbs. Not really. That's interesting. Well, this one has it in Spanish. And what it is lighting facts. Oh, it's bilingual. I hadn't noticed that. Lighting facts, which is kind of like nutrition facts when you buy food. Brightness, 400 lumens. Approximately what it'll cost you to run a year, but that's rated on using it 3 hours a day at the basis for electrical costs that they have there, which may not be the same in your area. It's supposed to last 10 years if you run it 3 hours a day. I don't know about that. But here's what you're looking for. 2700 Kelvin, 5 watts, 400 lumens. So this is a warm white. It even says it there on the scale. The scale starts at warm and it works its way up to cool. It's 2700 Kelvin. It draws 5 watts, but it only gives you 400 lumens. These bulbs are from IKEA. They were like $1. Can't expect much. Not bad, but still kind of low on the light output. But it's only a 5-watt bulb. So this would be something you'd have in like a table lamp that's not somewhere important. It's just kind of accent lighting or whatever. You have a bunch of these up. And even on the front here, 400 lumens, 2700 Kelvin, 400 lumen again, 5 watts. They're being very honest with you about what this light bulb consumes. Here's another IKEA bulb. This is what they call a candelabra base bulb. I'll pluck one out of here. It's like something you'd see in a chandelier or something like that. Hopefully you wouldn't use these tacky LEDs on a chandelier, but it's that style. On the box right here. Some of the stuff you could figure out even if you've never seen it. So, bulb not on, bulb on. It's telling me it goes to full brightness in under 1 second. 15,000 hours of life. Dimensions. Power. Color rendition index of 87. And it's only 91 lumens. Now this is a tiny little bulb. 2.2 watts. To put it into perspective, if you grew up anytime before the 80s and you had a night light in your house, there's a little thing that plugged into the wall, had a little light bulb in it like the size of a Christmas light bulb. Those drew 7 watts and produced less light than this. This is 2.2. But look at the CRI, 87. That's pretty crappy. If you're using this somewhere where it matters that everything around it shows up in the correct colors, this bulb is not the one that you want. And let's go back to this guy. Does this guy have a CRI? There it is. CRI of 80. This thing is really bad about color rendition. So if you're concerned about having lighting that actually makes things look good, makes them look right, it doesn't make your furniture look bleached out, it doesn't make things on the wall look kind of weird, you want a CRI of as close to 100 as you can get. This is actually pretty lousy, but once again, that was $1. So hopefully you guys found this video handy on light bulbs, and maybe I'll do another one in the future with some of the other different types of lights that are out there, like some of these strip lights. There's quite a bit of interesting lighting coming out of China. Enjoy.